Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. This is a big crowd, very excited about this. And I'd like to just thank a few people before I get started. And Isaac Smith is here, one of my idols. It's a pleasure and an honor to be speaking in front of you, sir. I can't tell you how much of an honor this is, so thank you for coming. I'm a docent here, and admittedly I don't do very much around here, which is probably why I'm standing up here today, because they've fed me in the past and they're probably trying to get their money's worth out of me at this point. When I was here for the last event, Linda pulled me aside and said, Bruce, we'd like to do something on Stonewalls. And I thought, in my mind, I thought, there's absolutely no way I'm going to stand up in front of all these people and talk about Stonewalls. But my response to her was, sure, of course, I'd love to. As I was driving away, I'm thinking, you know, she's going to forget about this and it'll be fine. I'll be all right. About 2 weeks later, I got an email saying, so when do you want to set up that date to do the Stonewall thing? And my next thought was, well, maybe I can pretend my computer's broken and I never actually got the email. That didn't work. So I called Linda and I said, so what would you like me to talk about? What part of Stonewalls would you like me to discuss? There's so many aspects. What should we do? Let's meet and talk about this. I came here and we sat down and she said, you choose. And I thought, oh no, I'm trying to, I need a little leadway here. So I said, okay, well, since a lot of people know about Stonewalls and they're familiar with Stonewalls and they may know somebody who does Stonewalls or they've read about them, what angle can I attack this from? And then I thought, well, let me do a slideshow of a variety of Stonewalls that are in the area that people may not know, all the different types. So she said, fine, go with that. So I said, okay, well, I'll drive around and start taking pictures of all different stone walls, and this will be great. I'll have a ton of pictures, and it'll be no problem. I went to Baltimore for a lacrosse convention that I'm involved with, and my wife called me and said, guess what? I said, what? She said, we're going to get 20 inches of snow. I said, you've got to be kidding me. I said, there's no way. They say that all the time. We'll be fine. The next day, we got 14 or 18 inches, and I thought, we had a month left. I said, it'll melt, and I'll drive around and take pictures of walls. Well, the rest is history, and it didn't melt. So I had to start to take pictures of pictures, which I didn't really want to do, but when you see, you'll see pictures of pictures. So then I called Linda up one more time and said, let's get together and arrange these pictures. And she said, and I didn't hear from her for like 2 days. And I'm thinking, all right, she did forget. This is great. I'm out. And 2 days later, she texted me and said, I have the flu. I'm not feeling well. And let's get together in a week. And I thought, the snow, the pictures, I don't know what I'm going to do. So out of the blue, Ellen sends me a text or an email and says, I hear you need some help. And I said, you have no idea how much help I need here. This is great. So I met with Ellen. It was great. I went up to her house. We sat down. We talked for like an hour. We went over some stuff. And then I learned a very disturbing thing about Ellen, which I was unaware of, which is that she knows more about Stonewalls than I do. And, you are retired, right? Good, because I don't want to see a truck riding around with Madison Masonry written on it anytime soon. That wouldn't be good. So, okay, so after that, so I met with Ellen, and I'd like to thank my wife, Sarah, who's here, very much. She's put up with me coming home cranky and grumpy and miserable 4 out of 5 days a week for the last 25 years, and greeted me with a loving smile and support. So I love you very much, and thank you so much for that. Thank you. And also, Dr. Adam Kaufman and his wife Becky are here. Very good friend. He and I coached the local lacrosse team together, and it's an honor to have you guys. Thank you for showing up. And I recognize more people here, so I really appreciate you all coming out. Okay, so without further ado, let me just go through this a little bit. Oh, another thing I'd like to mention. A gentleman who worked for me for 4 years, Bob Chapman, he passed away this year from a brain tumor. Great guy. He and I fought like cats and dogs. We loved to hate each other. It was a beautiful relationship. He was one of these guys who could do anything. It killed me. He could run machinery, he could build a house, he could do plumbing, he could do electrical work. He was a master welder, but his favorite thing to do was to build stone walls. So I took him on board and we did a bunch of work. And the last time I saw him, he was had a walking thing and a patch over his eye. And I took him for a last drive through Weekapaug, where we'd done a ton of work, and he just was so happy, and then he died a week later. But so anyway, I wanted to mention him. He was great. I love Bob. Okay, so how did I get started in doing Stonewalls? When I was 6, I was born in Hartford. My dad bought a house up in the Berkshires, and it was a rundown old place, and he wanted to renovate it. And to do so, it needed a stone wall. So he hired a guy named Dick Babcock who did post and beam work he would go up to upstate New York, take down a barn, post and beam barn, number everything, bring it back to Williamstown area, and erect it. And he would do a stone foundation and walls. And so my dad hired him. He was well known in the area. And he came over to the house. I was 6 years old. It was 1969. And he was a giant of a man. And when he entered a room, you knew he was there. And he had his helper with him, which was even bigger than he was. So these two giants are at our house. And they're building these walls. And my brother, I have a brother who's 4 years older than me. And when you're a young kid, I don't know anybody else felt this way, but I idolized my brother. Whatever he liked, I liked. If he was into it, man, I really liked it. So he was fascinated by this guy building this wall. So I watched my brother watch those guys. And so that came and went, and that was the end of that. And so fast forward 13 years, I'm living in Misquamicut with my brother in a winter home. It was a summer home that we were living in for the winter. And he worked at United Builders Supply in the masonry yard. And a local mason would come in every couple of days a week. And my brother said to him, listen, if you ever need any help, I would love to learn the trade of masonry. And the gentleman said, sure, I'll keep you in mind. And that was that. And about a year went by, and this guy's help ended up moving, getting married, and leaving town. So I'm living with my brother at the time. It's a Sunday afternoon. We're watching the football game. There's no one around. The place is empty. There's a knock at the door. And it's this gentleman. He comes in and he says to my brother Hunter, he says, my help just moved. I need some help. Are you interested? And my brother said, you know what? Actually, I think I'm going to stay where I am. So he looks at my brother and he says, what's he do? And my brother said, nothing. So I said, oh man. So he said, meet me at my shop tomorrow at 7 in the morning. And I said, great, I'll see you then. He drives away and I look at my brother and I said, what's he do? He said, well, you're going to be mixing cement and lugging stone. I said, oh, okay, I could try that. So I'm 19 at the time, and I just finished mowing lawns for the season. I was laid off, and I knew I wasn't going to college, so I was kind of in that area where I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to do masonry. I had no idea what I was doing. I just was kind of in that transitional period. So I started working for him. We worked on some chimneys and some fireplaces. It was fun. It was nice. And then we started doing stone walls. And I was just moving stone around and mixing cement and getting screamed at constantly, and that was the norm. So that went on, and all of a sudden I started to go home and think about, well, that was kind of really neat, and looking back at what we had accomplished and how it was coming along, and looking at other stone walls in town, and next thing I know, I'm driving around town looking at walls, and it's like when you own a blue car, you don't notice blue cars until you buy a blue car. Now there's blue cars everywhere. What the heck's going on? So next I found myself in the oddest place, the one place I thought I'd never be, the library. There's books there. I don't know if you're... So I'm in the library researching these stone walls, and I'm fascinated. I'm staying up at night, staring at the ceiling. All I can think about is stonework. It's on my mind constantly. So 10 years later, I apprenticed for 10 years. I decided I'm going to try this on my own. I'm going to see how this goes. And so that's what I did. I went on my own, and I've been doing it since 1993, and here I am. So let me just make sure. See, here we are. Okay, so... Oh, the other thing about this area, with the stone in this area, the really unfair thing about this is if you go over the Pawcatuck River, all the stones are dead flat. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that. You come back over here, they're all round. It's like, well, what the heck, cut the river. So that was kind of unfair. That was a challenge to learn how to do those. And I started thinking about different types of stone and quarry stone and who was doing them. And then you start to learn who the other masons in town are and the type of work they do and what their work looks like, and you start to recognize their work, and then you start to meet these people, and then you start to interact at the lumberyard, and it really became this really neat thing that was going on. My old boss told me a quick story. He said when he was in the union, he was a union bricklayer also, and all these guys would hop in the van and go to the job, and there'd be carpenters and plumbers and masons all in the same van. And the carpenters all got along together, laughing and chatting all the way to work, and the masons couldn't stand each other. They wouldn't say boo to each other. So, you know, it kind of had to break through that a little bit to get to meet all the other masons in town. Another thing, a gentleman who I had the pleasure of meeting named Dan Snow, he's written a few books about stonework. I met him up in Vermont. He was a huge inspiration for me. And he worked alone, and he does tremendous work. And one of the things, a funny story, he was building a wall, and a gentleman came by who was a photographer and ran into him and said, he was all excited, oh, this is beautiful, what are you doing? And Dan was trying to pay attention and listen to the guy with one eye on the guy, but the other eye's looking at that hole over there in the wall. He's trying to find that stone. He's trying to listen. Yeah, that's great, but I got to put that wall together over there. I need that stone. So that was, I can totally understand. People sometimes stop and say, oh, this is great. And all I'm thinking, you have to get totally focused in on a wall when you do it. You have to get zoned in, block everything else out. There's nothing else around you. That's it. You're constant. And a lot of times you don't have the stone. You have to break them. You have to find them. You go to make one, fit it. You hit it one more time. It breaks. You got to start the whole process over. So Isaac can attest to that, I'm sure. So, if any of you ever hire a stonemason, do's and don'ts. And I only came up with one, and it's a don't. Please, do not pull up a chair and sit behind him and watch him lay stone. If you want to help, go get the coffees, okay? I take a medium milk only, just in case you're... Okay. All right, so that's that. Okay, I'm going to read two quick quotes from Dan Snow. They're in his book. I stole them. Here they are. Finding stone, choosing it, and letting it go are the three things a waller does. I'd miss any one of them too much if I asked someone else to do them for me. I may work by myself, but I'm not alone. I'm in the company of stone. Dan Snow. I work with stone because stone is so much work. Physical labor stimulates thinking. The more engaged I am in working, the freer my thoughts become. It takes a lot of stone to stay working. I appreciate stone for its abundance and then for its willingness to play along. Okay, I'm going to, before we do the slideshow, which is next, I'm just going to show you some of the tools that we use. I don't know if I can pass them around if you're interested. Years ago, Isaac can attest to this, they didn't have carbide tools. They had steel, correct? Am I correct? All these chisels have carbide. And if you can hear that, that's a sign of a quality tool. When you hear that, you know someone's using the right tool. These are all different sizes. They're used for different things. This is for taking off large chunks of stone. This is a point for taking off a very difficult spot that won't come. This is a tracer. It's for cutting a straight line when you want to get a nice, straight, true line across a stone. Sure, sorry. In fact, would anybody like me to pass them around? Yes, no? Okay. Here, they're heavy. Be careful. This is a neat one. Let's pass that around as well. They're great tools.
Don't cut yourself.
Yeah. Here's another one. It's called the Stinger. It has a point with the carbide on here and then a flat surface here. Not flat, but wide that way. We can pass that around as well.
Bruce, about how much longer does carbide hold an edge versus the old steel?
10, maybe 100 times. You can sharpen carbide. You have to buy a special wheel to do it. But it's fragile, believe it or not. If you drop it on a stone, it'll break. But you can hit stone with it. It makes absolutely no sense to me. This is just a point. So what you would do here is you would take this and put this against the thing and right here. Okay? So you never want to hit carbide you never want to hit the carbide, it'll break it. This is just another, these are all basically do the same thing, different sizes and weights. This is also carbide. This is not carbide, this is just a hammer. It's kind of neat. These are feather and wedges, so when you drill a hole and you want to, they're taped together, but these are the two wedges, and this is a wedge, these are the feathers, excuse me. Yep, so you drill the hole, you drop this in, and then you take a lighter hammer, and you go right along, pink, 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 and in theory, it splits like a piece of bread. In theory. It's all theory. Okay, so that's pretty much that. Yes, sir.
Question.
Yes, no.
Carbide a kind of steel?
I don't know. It's carbide. I don't believe it's steel. No, I don't know what it is to be perfect.
High carbon.
I apologize if I don't have some of the answers to your questions, but I really don't know. I don't know. But I know it cuts stone very well. Okay, so working on walls can be extremely frustrating. I mean, one of the great quotes, Billy Joel said, "I hate writing, but I love having written." And I stole that and said, "I hate building, but I love having built." So, actually, I don't hate building. It's tremendously fun. You have a sense of accomplishment. Sometimes you have to work in the rain. You're on your knees all day. You're in the snow. It's bitterly cold. It could be 100 degrees out. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. So, okay. So, without further ado, let's go over. This is a local wall. I'll try and tell you where these are. Some of them from a book. This is right on the westerly Charlestown border. It's the entrance to Warren Road. You can see there's different types of stone. There's some granite and some field stone, and it's a nice blend. Again, keep in mind, I'm just trying to give you a variety of different walls. Here's some glacial erratics. These were pulled down potentially from Maine with the glacier. You don't know where they came from. There's Stonington is just riddled with this stuff. If anybody has any questions while I'm going, please feel free to stop me and ask. This is what you may, when you get on the job site, this may be what you look at. This is what you have to build with. There's no rhyme or reason. You just have to pick a stone, have an idea in your head. You really need to know what you want the stone wall to look like when you're done. That's how I do it. I say, okay, I want the wall to look like this, such and such, and therefore I need X amount of stone to do what I need to do. And with this, these are really big, obviously. There's probably a lot of cutting going on. You can see the machine's going to move them around. I don't own a machine. I generally hire somebody out to do that. Here's, again, the tools. You have the carbide chisels, different types. They all do different things. Tool bag. This is, sorry, see the crease? That's a picture of a picture. Blame the snow on that one. I love this. This is, this is just typical New England. It's beautiful. The amount of work that it took to do that, and probably oxen, and who knows. I don't know if they did it in stages or how they did it, but it's just beautiful. Has a really nice feel to it. It's very rustic. I mean, and these walls are single width, so if you push on them, they'll tip over. So the fact that they are still standing after all these years, you can see, like here, it looks like there's a break there. Some of the capstones have come off.
Where is that?
That one, that's a picture of a picture. It was in a book. Again, look at the length of this. I mean, I can't even tell you how many tons of stone there are there. And look, it's here. It's here. I mean, it's everywhere. It's incredible. I don't know how they did it. I really don't. I mean, what they did 150 years ago, I don't know how. This is great. It's hard to see. These are all walls. I just read recently that in New England alone, there was, at one time, no longer, there was 250,000 miles, lineal miles of walls. Now we've lost over 100,000. I've met farmers who I would try and buy stone from, and they'd say, "Oh, you know how much of that stuff I buried over the years?" And oh my God, you're killing me. And the other thing is, it's a little hypocritical on my part, but I could never go into the woods and take stone off walls. It's just sacrilegious to me. In fact, in Connecticut, it's against the law. But however, I can go to UBS and there'll be a palletized thing of stone, and sure, I'll take that stone right there, no problem. I'll buy it. So, it's a tough call. They don't make it anymore, and it's becoming more and more hard to find. It's harder and harder to find. Again, a nice farm wall, stayed true all these years. There's back piece. And, again, the moss, you can just, this indicates how long it's been around. Look at the lichen on it. It's beautiful. It has that really rustic feel to it. This I found, I took this picture. It was, I was driving, it's around Conotchet. I was driving around, this is before the snow, like 2 days before the snow hit. I just love the lichen on it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Another example of a farm wall with the climbing roses. Very nice. This is a little more formal. So this would be considered a little more formal. The other ones are just stacked up. Someone actually took the time to place the stone here a little bit better. So what I'm going to do here is the pictures are going to progress from rustic farm walls to more formal walls. Look at the stone. Look at the walls. They're everywhere. That's incredible. And then, you know, again, you have the post. I love that. That's just tremendous. This is great. It's an old pound, 1877. These stones, I'm guessing, were maybe cut on site. Maybe not, but back then they probably were. A lot of people, I just read recently that they, when they had this granite, they actually cut it right on the farm. They found a spot, as was done here. This is a wall right on my street. I actually did this wall years ago. The posts are there. That was a nice little entranceway. Again, I consider it a farm wall. This is a balancing act. If you push on this wall, it'll tip right over. But straight up and down, it's got a ton of strength because the stones literally are locked together. When I place them, if they don't make that sound, that clicking sound, I don't put them in. And there's no footing here. The old farm walls were put right on the ground, and I figured if they can do it, it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. Can everybody hear me, by the way? Okay. So we're getting to a little more formal. This is in, my mom lives in Western Mass. I went up to visit her, and on the way home, I drove through Lenox, Massachusetts, and I just think it has a really nice, again, what I look for in a stone wall is the softness of it. Even though they're sharp pieces, they made it look very soft and welcoming, and it was right around, obviously around Halloween. So we're getting to a little more formal. You have different styles. This is a different stone. This is probably 2 or 3. You have the iron all in this stone. This looks like a granite. This looks like a field stone to me. And they capped it nice and true. Again, there's probably, I'm assuming there's a footing on this one. It's a retaining wall. You can see the bank behind here. It's holding that back. So there may or may not be cement in this wall. Generally, you can build a wall that looks dry but has cement, or you can build what's called a dry wall. So that's a nice job. This is neat. Look at this. That's people just getting very creative over, you know. They got to this section and said, what do you want to do now? Let's bend it. Okay, we'll bend it. That's neat. That took some time and some patience. I will say one thing. After doing this all day, I'll come home and my wife will say, you have no patience. What are you talking about? This is one I did in my yard. I had to do a little retaining wall. There's about 6 different types of stone here. I found it from everywhere. This is up in Hopkinton. You'll see a lot of these walls around graveyards, grave sites. Typical, very nice. Again, this is probably all local stuff that they cut out of the ground. I'm guessing, again, I don't know. But it has that nice moss on it. It's beautiful. And that looks like a piece of westerly to me.
Could be.
Yep, that's more. Oops, sorry guys. I'll go back for a second. This is a quarry stone. I did this when I first went into business. I made absolutely no money on this wall. It took me about 2.5 months to do, and I charged him like $2,000 plus a stone. I think I ended up cutting him a check at the end. This is a nice example of up in Connecticut. I was driving. This is right before the snows. I thought, well, I better get out there, and then this is coming. And this is a good example. Oh, sorry, I keep hitting the wrong button. The walls are tapered. You can see that nice taper on both sides, which gives it strength. You know, you want to have that pyramid effect. And they piece the center. They put the rubble in the middle, and it's a nice job. It's a quarry stone. This is neat. You can see the curved sides. This is just tricky stuff to do. It's really where the art part of it comes in. I don't know who did it. It's a picture of a picture. But look at the amount of stonework there. And it's double face. I mean, you have all this, and then you go to the back side of the wall, and you have the exact same thing. So when you see a 100-foot wall that's double face, it's really 200 feet. There's a lot of work there.
Bruce, would there be any water in that?
There could be. I don't think there is, because this was from I belong to a group called the Stone Foundation, and they're really big on dry stonework. I mean, almost, if you use cement, you're not really a stonemason. So, but, that's not true, obviously.
Any foundation under them?
I would imagine that under this one that there's a foundation. Yeah, I would say crushed stone. Look at all the chips and everything where they've been cutting. I would say this magnitude of wall, there's absolutely a footing because of the weight. The only walls that I ever see that don't have a footing are the farm walls. Everything else has some type of footing, be it concrete or crushed stone. The crushed stone, so as far as footings go, if you do a wall with cement in it, my rule of thumb is that you use a concrete footing because you don't want any movement at all. If you do a dry wall, you actually want the wall to move with the earth. So you use a crushed stone footing, which lets the water go through, and the freezing and the thawing and the heaving, and then hopefully it all comes back to the spot where it belongs when it's done all the heaving, which isn't always the case. That's more of the same wall that I just showed you, the end piece. This is neat. This is neat.
Crushed stone in the trench?
Yes, it's in the trench. Yeah, and so some people do walls differently. Some people use crushed stone in the middle of the wall for filler, and some people just use broken pieces of the wall where they've been cutting. They'll use them as, they're called chinks. You chink it in. So this is, again, not a stone wall, obviously, but I just thought it was neat. Some of these pictures I just was so fascinated by, I wanted to share them with you. This is, it's just, again, you don't want to push on this, but if left alone, that will stay like that for 1,000 years. It'll never move. It'll just stay like that forever. The pressure, that's a picture of a picture. Yeah, actually, I did read the caption. It's in New York State. Sorry. It's pretty neat. And the stone's nothing special, but it's all about the form. It's all about once they take that form out, that's what you're left with. It's really neat. This is, that's one I did. That's native field stone. Again, that has cement in it. It's actually a pier. It has cement behind it and a cap on it, which I wasn't crazy about, so I X'd it out of the picture. That's one in Weekapaug I did. It's using I talked about the round stone versus the flats. And I like to mix flat ones with round ones on occasion when I can. So that has this guy wanted a footing, and he wanted a 3-foot deep concrete footing. And man, you should have seen the trench that we dug for that wall. It was impressive. And it was funny because in Sandy, that's the ocean right there. The ocean came over this embankment and all the way down and ran around this wall. And I was happy that the wall was still there after the end. And also this section right here, about a year later, a guy came flying out of the parking lot in his car and slammed into it and moved the entire thing. I had to rebuild it. Yeah, I was like, you got to be kidding me. He hit the wall. He's like, oh yeah, he smashed it.
Bruce, the round stone is a significantly higher labor factor?
Yes.
Was it 3 feet deep or 3 feet wide?
So let me go back. That one was 3 feet deep, but you always want to go wider than the wall with the footing. So the footing's out here for balance on both sides. That's a double face wall, by the way. So the footing is wider than the existing wall, and the footing, you want to go down to frost line, generally. But when you use crushed stone, you really don't need to do it because you're allowing motion anyway. So that's not, and back to your question about round stone. Yes, round stones are much more difficult, in my opinion, to lay versus flat stone. Flat stone kind of sit nicely and behave, and round stones don't. So this is fun. This was in Barrie, Vermont. I went to this. I was here. The Stone Foundation goes all over the country doing symposiums, and this was one of them. And each section was built by a different mason. This was a stone walling competition. And in the middle, they put this huge pile of stone, probably 10 ton, and 8 different people, or whatever the amount, I think there was 8 or 10 people, got in the middle, and they had to build a double face wall. There's this face and the other face, and they were timed. They had like 6 hours. And then they had Dan Snow, they had judges walking around with clipboards judging the work. And at the end, the guy won like $1,000 or something. But it was fun. It was great because there was probably 100 people here standing around drinking beer. There was a bluegrass band playing in the background. They had a wheelbarrow chase. You loaded a wheelbarrow, would go up over planks, see who could do that the quickest. It was neat. So it was a great day. And it was at the Granite Museum in Barrie. So if you've never been there, it was tremendous. Really good. And then they built this. So it went on for a week, and they were teaching people how. So they built this before I got there with that Gothic arch. It's really neat, really neat. And it's still there. I just took this picture like 5 years later. I went up and it was all still sitting there. Couldn't believe it. That's a woman. She's in the competition building that wall. And trust me, you don't want to mess with her. She will light you up like a Christmas tree. Her name is Fred, by the way. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Yeah, she stood up and said, yeah, I'm Fred, my father. Who knows what he was thinking about. So she was great. This is one of my favorite walls. Look at the joinery here. And there's no chisel marks, nothing. And look at the top edge, how soft it is. It's truly, and it's a perfect corner cap. I don't know if he built it, but he's totally psyched. Look at him. That's right, I built this wall. But I can't imagine how much time and effort that took. It's just tremendous. It's really neat, really neat. And the colors are great. The pictures are very good. That's pink, and it's just got great color. And it looks like a hammered finish on the stone. It's really a neat shot. This is more of the same, not the same wall, but very neat. Nice granite, beautiful. The joinery is beautiful, beautiful. It has a really soft feel to it. you know. And believe me, those stones weren't like that. Somebody created that. This is a complete cut. I mean, that was how they did that. You know, it's any man's guess. This is neat. It's got the lichen all over it. It's a nice mosaic, what I would call a nice mosaic. Pretty. This is neat. This is all quarry stone. I can tell it's been snapped with a guillotine. They put a little shelf in that, which you can put a little candle or your beer or whatever you want to do. You know, it's neat. I like that. This is in Weekapaug. I didn't do it, but I was very impressed with this. Now, this is, I can verify all these. This is next to the Dobrow's house. Mrs. Dobrow's here, by the way. This is right next to your house. These stones were cut with a saw. Now, that's not to take anything away from it because the joinery is beautiful. It's perfect. And the one thing that you may not be able to tell is this is a round column. These two are round columns, and they are perfect. Absolutely perfect. So it's just another style of stonework. I try not to use a saw. I like it a little more rough and rustic. But these guys, this is their thing, and they are very good at it. I'm impressed. I don't particularly care for all the iron in the stone. I don't like the color, but it's just my opinion. So this is one. So these are the walls you see in Westerly everywhere. I did this. I was taught to do this. The guy I worked for did a lot of these. Some people can't stand them. Some people love them. You know, the thing about doing walls or working for customers is that you have to do whatever they want. Whether you like the style that they want or the stone that they pick out, it doesn't matter. That's what you're doing. So this is in Avondale.
Is that crushed stone in the middle or something?
That's cement between the joints. Cement between the joints. And then it has that round cap, which is, I've never seen anywhere but Westerly. And I'm not from Westerly, so when I got here, I'm like, what the heck's with these walls? But they're everywhere, and I've grown to love them. I really enjoy it. This is another mosaic, round stones with cement in between. It's in Weekapaug. I did that years ago. So this is funny because underneath the house you have that little lip. These stones are totally different color. They never weathered. The sun hits them, and these right next door is starting to weather. Same wall. Kind of fun. It's at the entrance of the park. Somebody hit it with a truck, and I had to rebuild it. So I had to reuse the same stone, and I guess the delivery man backed right at it. Yes?
Is there a name for that sort of traditional Westerly style?
You know, I don't know of a name. I'm sorry?
Westerly style.
Yeah, Westerly style, yeah. That's what I would call it. That's what I would call it.
Okay, we know it.
Yeah, right. But literally, I mean, I've seen other round tops, but not like they do here. This is the Narragansetts do this style a lot, where they put up one and then they fill in the middle and they offset, and that's a cobblestone cap. I'm just trying to give you a variation of different types of stonework. Granite. A lot of times what they'll do is they use cobblestones for corners because it gives you that nice cobblestone. that nice corner edge. Here's neat. This is neat. Look at the wheel. Huh? Now, again, I wouldn't want to run up and kick that thing. It probably wouldn't stay, but it's there, and he's got cement joints in between, and the whole, it's a round column with a round wheel in it, and the center is hollow. So, and look, there's another one here, and here, kind of neat. I mean, you really, that just takes great patience. I'm impressed. Here's another one, same guy. Yeah, isn't that neat? It's just a nice detail. And the other thing that again, you talk about being able to see, recognizing other people's work. They use that V joint. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it, but they literally bring it out to a V, and that's their signature. So that whenever you see that, if you've ever been up to Foxwoods, you'll see that type of stonework everywhere. This is neat. I don't know who did this, but it's got the coping cap, which is you see down in Kentucky a lot. That's really, again, this is a drywall. I'm almost convinced because I know the way they did it. You know, I'm sorry, Isaac? Oh, I thought you were going to say something. This is obviously not a stone wall, but I just, look at the benches. You could just sit here all day. Need a little pond here, but that's all right. This, again, just an example of, you know how many little pieces of flat stone are in this? Thousands, tens of thousands. I don't know how long it took. And this wall is probably 8 feet high. I mean, it's huge. And then they have this and the steps coming down. It's really neat. And then again, the cap, I had to piece it in. This is kind of a shame. It's nice field stone with huge mortar joints. But again, it's just a different style. But it has a nice look to it. But I would have tightened it up a little bit if I could have. This is neat. This shows you, I don't know who he is. It's got the nice coping cap, and you can see the walls are tapered. And they're tapered for strength. And then in the middle, the heart of the wall has, he's not using any crushed stone, he's using junk stone to fill in. And he's obviously very proud of it. This is neat. I love this. I love granite posts. I just have a thing for them. And I think this is in either Massachusetts or New Hampshire, but they had an abundance of these. One fell over. But look at them all. And the time that it must have taken. And again, you don't see any chisel marks, a few drill marks, but I love that look anyway. But it's just a different type of wall you just never see. It's just tremendous. And again, I don't think that looks like as far as it went underground. So that's unless it's snapped off there. Maybe the tree snapped it somehow. This is in my yard. Look at all the lichen over. My neighbor came over one day and he was sitting on the wall and we're talking and all of a sudden he's picking off all the lichen. And I said, Don, yeah, would you mind not picking off all the lichen off the wall? It's like, oh, sorry. Like, no problem. This is just a good example. It's a huge wall. This has got to be 15 feet tall. But I mean, the amount, this is probably 100 years old, I'm guessing. But again, the nice lichen and, so you can see from the beginning, from the farm walls where they're very rustic to how it's just getting more and more. Duplicate. Look at this guy. He's smoking a cigarette. He's totally psyched. He just finished this great wall. He's having his cigarette. But this is great. I mean, it's not everybody's look. I mean, I happen to like this ashlar look. And that's a huge piece. Look how big that is. How he lifted, how they did this. It's just...
how do you handle a stone that big?
He probably used like a Babcock, Bobcat and slings and lifted it. But even, that's all good and well, but if you put it on there and it's off by a quarter inch, you got to take it off and redo the entire process. It could take 3 hours to set that stone. And a lot of swearing, trust me.
Bruce,
yes.
have you ever seen, like, if you hike up back in the backcountry, old walls that have some huge stone
yes.
in them?
How did they do it?
How did they do it?
Yes.
A horse,
Oxen, yeah,
oxen?
sure.
It's
yes,
amazing.
it is
Sitting
amazing.
up
Yeah,
2 feet above the ground.
absolutely. I'm impressed constantly when I look at these old walls. How did they do it? The patience. I was telling somebody one day, these guys didn't care about money, or they cared about their pride, and time was not an issue. If it took a day to make it right, that's what it took. Today everybody's in a hurry. When can you finish? How much does it cost? It makes you crazy. You want to do a nice job. This is nice. It comes down. Got the cap. This is, you see a lot of this type of stone up in western Massachusetts. It's probably from the Goshen quarry, which has that iron in it. Again, two tiers. Very nice. This is nice. Again, see the rebar here? He's using that as a guide to taper the wall. They're on a taper. See that angle? So, and he's tied the corner together really well. Every other one. 2/1, 1/2, 2/1, 1/2, 2/1. It's how it stays together forever. Here's his cutting bench. Here's his chisels and hammer. He's cutting. He's getting ready for that next. Here's the line. Some guys call it a string line. It makes me crazy. It's a line, period. But anyway, so I don't see any cement. It doesn't look like there's any cement going on in there. So it's nice.
How much would that block weigh on sitting on the bench?
This here probably weighs 60 pounds, 40 to 60 pounds. Which is not when you do it all day, every day, that's actually considered a light stone. Something like that is probably twice the weight. But you get used to learning how to roll stone to where you need it to go, and then lifting versus lifting and walking. Otherwise, you go home tired. This is a duplicate. The duplicate. Sorry, we have this. This is great. This is in Washington D.C., right across from the Capitol. Keep in mind, I've made my entire family nuts by going, look, and we have to pull the car over. I'm jumping out and running around with cameras and stopping traffic and stuff. And this is directly across from the Capitol. And I'm convinced this is westerly granite. I could be wrong. I have no proof, but I've been around westerly. I walked right up. And these stones are like this big around each. This is not small stone. So that's a beautiful mosaic. It may not be everybody's style. What I tell people about stonework is you may hate the look, but the craftsmanship is tremendous. I mean, what it took to do that. And it's probably 80, 100 years old, I'm assuming. It's on one of those great old buildings down there. This has three of my favorite things in it. I know it's not a stone wall, I get it. But it's got stone in it, it's got westerly granite, and it's got Gettysburg. So my 3 favorite things, and I actually have been to this monument. I went to Gettysburg twice, once with my wife and son, and the second time she said, why don't you go alone because you're making me crazy. And so I went alone, and I was on a tour with a historian and about 20 other people, and we're going by all these great monuments. I said, oh man, look at that, that's from Westerly, and after about the 10th time, their eyes are completely glazed over. They're trying to ditch me at this point. And then it dawned on me, I don't really know if they're from Westerly, I don't have any proof. So I get up to this one, and I mean, first of all, this guy who carved this, I couldn't even carry that guy's tool bag. There's just no way. He's just tremendous. So I look on the corner around thing, Smith Granite, Corey, Smith Granite Company, written right on it. And that's when I looked around. They all looked the other way, and okay, skip it, forget, don't worry about it. Next time.
Have you ever tried to carve?
I have no ability of carving. I know guys who can do it well, and I can't draw a straight line to save my life. So carving. I know a guy who bought all the pneumatic tools, and when he builds a wall, now he puts his signature and he does a little carving of an animal or something, and it's great. Yeah, this is beautiful. I mean, this is true. The detail, when you get up to this thing, and the color, it's pink. It's absolutely gorgeous. I've never seen anything like it. And the detail, what it took. Again, as it says in the video, keep in mind, you have to take away. You have a block of stone, and all you're doing is subtracting. You can't add anything. You just have to, and to cut through that hole without breaking this piece, and through here, and that's the strap of the gun. I mean, it's just tremendous. I don't know how I really don't know how they did it. I have no idea. It blows my mind. This is great. Look at these guys. They're having a ball. They're in the shop. They're on a stone that looks like a canoe, man. Look at them. They're having a ball. He's paddling. He's looking ahead. This is great. These guys are tremendous. All right, look at this guy. He can't contain himself. I love these guys. This was done at up at Barrie, Vermont. Before they were there for a whole week, and they put the form in, and they pull it out, and that's what's left. Neat. I love that. I love arches. Here's a stone bridge. Again, I just had to throw it in there. I don't know where it is, but it's just beautiful. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. And again, they either have to do this when the river is completely dry or divert the river. I don't know how they do it. Got to do it in the dry season and hurry up, hope it doesn't rain. That's a nice arch. Look at here, all in here. So when you're laying these, there's a wooden arch here. You can't see the face of the stone. You just have to kind of go by eye. You have to hope that when you pull it out, it looks good. And it may or may not. And it's really neat. Again, left alone, this will stay forever. It'll never move. That's kind of neat. People just get, people get creative with stuff, and it's really neat. And it's just, I'm always impressed by different.
That's because the wall was a little longer than the property line?
Probably, yeah. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And this guy, look at him, how excited he is. Look, he's got his own little place. He's like, that's right. This is nice. Look how soft this looks. I mean, it just has a really nice soft look with a big granite lintel. It's a doorway. I don't know where it is. I think it's in Oregon, actually. But it's just nice, soft, nice feel to it. Okay, we're almost at the end. I got to a job. I was down in Weekapaug, right on the pond, and it was like 6:30 in the morning, and I said, oh my God, I have to get a picture of that. And this is what it looked like when I got there. This is the pile I had to pick up and start working with when I got there, and these are big stones. This is partway through, and that's what it looked like when I was driving home. So, yeah, they are heavy. They are heavy. Oh yeah. So that's it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you all coming by. Are there any questions that I can? Yes.
Do you work by yourself?
I do. I've had help in the past. I tend to not work well with others sometimes, but no, I love having. Sometimes it's frustrating because when you're building a wall, you can't really. There's nothing for them to do. You want to explain it to them. They don't, and it's not their fault. They don't know what to do. So unless you want to go through the entire apprentice program, if I could hire someone who knew exactly what to do and bring them in, that would be different. That would be easier. I love hiring like high school kids because they're total blank. They have an empty slate. You can start from ground zero, and that's good. They don't tend to hang around too much because they go to college or whatever they do. But I do work alone. I thought another friend of mine was going to be here, Phil, but I don't think he made it. Phil's here? No. Phil's here. There he is. I wanted to think. I have a whole thing about Phil. I didn't see you come. Oh, yeah. It's your turn, buddy. Yeah, so Phil Morano's here. Thank you for showing up. He's a great friend of mine. He has hired me in the past. We've done a lot of work together, some really nice projects in Watch Hill. He has really been supportive of me, and he's a very good friend of mine. The day I met Phil, I was minding my own business, and I was in the lumberyard thumbing through bluestone, and I had just gone into business. It was like 1993, and I look up, and Phil's leaning on the thing at UBS, and he's looking at me like this. And I said, okay. I didn't know him personally at the time, but I knew who he was. We all know who everybody is in town. So I go back to thumbing through stone, and I look up, and he's still looking at me. I said, okay. And then about 3 minutes go by. You may or may not even remember this. He calls me over. He goes, Bruce, come on over. I said, hey, how's it going, Phil? And he goes, I'd like to have you work with me on a project. I said, great. And right then I knew exactly what he was doing. He was studying the way I was trained. And to see the way I picked through stone, if I knew what I was doing when I looked at stone, my motions, and then I knew that he had been trained properly because he was looking to see if I'd been trained properly. I knew we were going to hit it off right away. That was it. So we've been good friends right away. So thank you for coming. It's great. He's been a great friend of mine. So anything else? Yes?
What's the story about the walls on Chase Hill Road?
Oh, yes. The gentleman who owned BDA had those built. And those are tremendous. I don't know where he got all that stone. That's an amazing amount of stone. They're 4 feet wide, I think, at the base, and they taper. And I mean, it goes on and on and on. And I don't know where he got all that stone. Again, I'm sorry? Did they really? Is that right? Brian Brennan here, and Jerry's here also. Thank you guys for showing up. You guys are great. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry. Yes, somebody else had a question? Yes.
I don't have a question, but I've got a comment.
Okay.
Don't you ever be afraid of public.
Oh. Well, thank you. You weren't here when I was throwing up downstairs before that. So, yes, anything else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, when you lay a wall today,
Yes.
and it's on the property line, do you have the wall straddle the property line, or do you move it on?
You back off the property line. Is that your question? I'm sorry. Do you straddle?
You have the edge of the wall. You have the wall totally within the person or page's property at the edge.
Yeah, what I like to do is just show courtesy and stay off the line a little bit anyway. 6 inches, say. So there's no question they can never come back and say you're on the wall, and you're just showing your neighbor that you're conscious of their line and that you're not trying to push the boundary, and you want good neighbors type of thing. So that's my theory. Yes.
Is there any way that we could, where could you direct us to find out more about what we term the westerly wall?
They're everywhere. The park is surrounded by it.
No, it's in front of my house.
Oh.
I'd like to learn more about it.
Do you know where the wall?
As far as what? I'm sorry. The name, I really don't know, ma'am. I have no idea. I never saw them till I came here, so I don't know if there is a name, to be perfectly honest with you. Maybe Phil. Phil, do you know if there's a name? No? Yeah. No, I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah. Anybody else? I'm sorry. Yes.
Any special difficulties in creating a wall on a slope?
If you're using a round stone versus a flat stone, it's much harder, in my opinion. You have to, sometimes you may be locked into using cement. It really is how you join the stones together. If they lock together, even if you're going down, by the time you get to the end, it's all locked in, and the pressure is going against itself, which keeps it all together. Sometimes you need a pier at the end, which will really help, or a granite post. I like to do that a lot. But yeah, it is more of a challenge, obviously, on a hill than it is on a slope. I mean, on a flat area. Yes.
Bruce, how do you charge? Do you charge by the height, the length, the hours? How does it make you figure out how much?
You can either go by square footage or by the hour. Generally, they want to pay you by square footage because they assume it's going to take you forever and it'll cost a fortune. So, but so I generally end up going by the square footage. Yeah, by the square foot, which is good and bad. If you don't want to rush and make sure. So if you have to do 10 square feet a day, you don't want to rush in case you have bad stone and you're not going to get that 10 square feet, but you still need to make your quota for the day. So I don't like to do it because I feel pressure that way. I'd much rather have, say, obviously this doesn't happen anymore, but just build a wall and charge me what it costs. But that never happens. So, but because now you're going to take your time and do a really nice job and really make it as good as you can. But generally it's square foot today. When I give a price to a contractor, he wants to know a square foot price. Yes. Sorry. Anybody else? Yes.
They're really natural looking. I think we call them farm walls.
Yes.
Everywhere around 150 years.
Yes.
Do you know if why they came to be?
I think mostly because they were clearing the fields and they didn't know what to do with the stone, and then they were using them as fences to contain livestock. A lot of time or boundary walls. There were boundary walls, but mostly New England was riddled with stone. And when they tilled the fields, they would. I had a picture that did not get in, but they have just made piles of stones. And you can still find them in the woods. I've driven by woods where there's literally a pile of stone in the woods, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to get in there, but you can't touch them. But I can imagine what's in that pile.
That's why people moved west.
Yes, right. Yes.
Bruce, I've read that farmers can never stop clearing stone either, because it floats up.
Right,
Freezes.
it keeps popping up.
So I've read they keep plowing it up, and then just about 14 years ago, I read a story in, I think, in one of the New England magazines. Potato farmers in Rhode Island used to curse the stones, because they're planting potatoes. And the current generation said, we don't curse them anymore because we get more a pound for stone than we get for potatoes. So it's a cash crop now.
And keep in mind, they don't make stone anymore, so it's just running out.
Well, they do, but it takes a long
Yeah, it does take a long time. It does take a long. I'm sorry. Somebody else had a question? Yes.
I like rocks. Is there a difference?
Yes, there's a big difference. Yes. A rock is what's left over when you're finished with a wall. We start with stones, and rocks are when we've broken all the chips off. That's what's left is rocks. People say, "I want a rock wall," and I no, you don't, or you don't want me to build it. Yes.
Yes, but I'm from the New York area.
Yes.
And we always refer where we're from, the junction, that up on our hill, that's a rock wall.
Yes.
But I want to say something like that.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I'm just kidding. But no, some people.
No, but I'm saying they're beautiful rocks.
Sure.
And how do you replace them?
Yes.
Maybe they were kind of
They may have been. Sure.
easily replaced.
Sure. Yeah.
We hear the expression, anybody understand Stonewalls?
Really? See, so it's just geographically they just call them different things. Yeah. No. To me, yes.
Bruce, were there Stonewalls built by the Native Americans before the white man got here?
I don't know, but they may have. I know they used the Native Americans to build walls when they got here. Whether they had done it before that or not, I just don't know. I really don't. Sorry, Tony. Yes.
I heard that a lot of the walls were built by slaves. Is that
I do. Yes, I have heard that as well. Yes.
My daughter lives in a 250-year-old farmhouse outside in Northborough.
Yes.
Outside of Worcester.
Mm-hmm.
And she was told that they used to train orphans to do building because then they would house them and feed them.
Really? They're building their own place to stay? Wow, that's great. I love the history of this stuff. You could do a whole other thing on the history of this stuff, and it's endless. Next year, no, I'm done. That's it. No, that's it. But so yes, if that's it, is that it? Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Bruce, I've got
Yes.
Dana right in the backyard. It's probably 30 feet high and stones that you can't pick up with
I'm sure.
most of the excavators that are around today.
Yes.
How in the heck did they get them?
Derricks, I don't know. I mean, maybe they built ramps to get them up. I really don't know. Usually, I would have to do a little more studying on how they actually moved this. Isaac could probably explain this. I mean, they had to move huge chunks of granite here. I mean, up and down this hill. How they did that, I'll never know. But yeah, I'm sorry. I really don't know how they did it specifically. Yes.
When you think about the craft over the last couple hundred years, would you say that your building as well now as walls were built previously, or are you building better?
I think we have better tools, absolutely. We have better methods. Whether some walls are built better then and some are built better. I come across walls that are 100 years old that are terrible, and some that I've actually shown here that are just amazing. I know the granite, the carving, that's a lost trade. That may never come back. I mean, it's a shame that that's gone. I mean, people just don't know how to do it anymore. And it was passed along, but it fizzled out, unfortunately. Now they use pneumatic tools and air guns. And I mean, you can tell the difference between someone who used a pneumatic tool versus someone who carved by hand. I mean, it's night and day, night and day. And nobody's doing it anymore. So are they better today than they were? It's easier today than it was. We have machines that lift stones. We have tools that cut stones. We have saws. We have diamond blades. We have wet saws that cut through like butter. It's definitely easier. And now we use thin stone. They have this new thing called thin stone where they take a real stone, they cut it down to about that thick, and you glue it onto the surface. It's still real stone, and it looks nice, but it's 10 times easier than using a...
So you build a cement structure, and then you put on...
You veneer it.
thick layer of stone.
You parge it and then stick it on. Yeah, it's kind of a shame, and it's gotten to the point where almost anybody can do that, and it's taken away from the trade a little bit. So, but it's a great trade. It's not for everybody by any means, and I do recommend it. And hopefully, the younger generation will they tend to not look around and see what's come before them too much. They're playing video games and stuff, but hopefully they will start to realize where we came from. So, that's it. Anybody else? Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you.